You're listening to Get to Know World of Warships, a podcast created by Boggzy and Borla.
Welcome back, everybody, to Get to Know World of Warships. I am Boggzy, and I'm here, of course, with my co-host Borla. Hello, Borla.
How you doing today, Boggzy?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited. We have somebody as a guest here today, and I want to get right to him, that I've been sort of wanting to get on for quite a while, and I snagged him. I got him. I'm not going to tell you what I did in order to get him. It's illegal in several states, but please, everybody, welcome ViirtualSenpai. What's up, man?
Oh, what's up, guys? It's great to be here. Good to be here. Been a huge fan of the podcast. I mean, big fan, by the way.
Big fan.
Big fan, huge fan, RGB fan. It's good to be here, finally on the podcast. I mean, it's been in the back of my mind. It's like, when am I gonna get on Boggzy's podcast? I'd love to hear this because, as far as I've heard, like a few of the 07 guys, like BFK's been on this before, like other people, and they've had relatively great experiences. So I wanted to kind of see what it's all about. And with what's we're gonna be talking about today, I'm really excited.
Well, I mean, the whole point of this podcast was to create relatively great experiences. So that's what we aim for, isn't that right, Borla?
Yeah, I think it's relative.
Well, okay, so I think the first question that I have for you is the most important one, as what is it like to go through life sounding exactly like Seth MacFarlane?
Well, I guess that can go hand in hand with me looking almost exactly like Elon Musk's son or something like that. It's absolutely insane.
Have people said
honestly,
that to you?
people. I'm actually like contemplating adding a exclamation point Elon counter or an exclamation point Seth counter on my stream. Just for the amount of times people say it. They're like, oh, has anyone ever told you look like Elon Musk? I'm just like, that's like the nth time I've heard that today or like this week or something like that. Like it happened a lot in 2020.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Seth, the whole Seth MacFarlane thing.
You really do. You have the same, I guess it's not the register. God, I'm an actor. Borla, did you know I was an actor?
I've heard that. I don't know if we've ever brought it up on the podcast or not.
I should just let everybody know that I'm an actor, and I'm supposed to know words.
And what kind of film, though?
Well, the paywall kind.
Isn't that what he had to send you to get you on the podcast?
The paywall.
Hey, don't ask, don't tell.
Absolutely. Well, no, it's the timber. Whatever. I've actually met Seth MacFarlane. I had a quick conversation with him at a rap party for one of his shows that I don't know how I managed to get there, but I was there, and I spoke to him for a little bit about Star Trek, since his show, The Orville, is sort of like a Star Trek parody that feels more like Star Trek than the new Star Trek shows do. So I got to talk to him, and he's a very friendly guy, but he has this very nice, affected, very strong, deep, resonant voice and all this, and you sound just like him. It's uncanny. But people tell you that a lot?
People haven't really told me that a lot, but they say I have a very, I guess, loud voice. It comes from playing years upon years upon years of hockey, where, I mean, you're yelling across a very, very, very large surface, trying to get your teammates' attention, trying to make sure that they have their head on a swivel and they don't get their head taken off in a corner or something like that. But I also get a louder voice from playing competitive paintball. The season's kind of furloughed right now because of Corona, of course, but there's a lot of yelling and it gets very, very loud, and so my voice has over the years become naturally louder.
Right, that makes sense. And if I was wondering whether you were Canadian or not, I mean, hockey and paintball, that tracks. So well, before I throw it to Borla to start in on our little list of questions that we know, let me just start by saying, like, I know you, but for somebody who doesn't know you, what exactly is it that you do? And I'll just start off by saying I first came across you when I started caring about King of the Sea. I started caring about King of the Sea, and I was told to watch your stream or Sea Raptor's stream. And I ended up watching your stream for the most part, and that's where I got to... I think I watched you in a very famous clip because my clan that I had just joined, TNG at the time, was up against 07 in KOTS 10, I want to say, and that's the moment when Potato Quality made like a 28-kilometer shot in his Montana across the map and sunk our friend Cowboy in his Minotaur, like Devstruck Cowboy's Minotaur, and the roof just came off of whatever place we weren't in. And you were the one I was listening to when that happened, and it was so exciting. So, what is it that you do, and why should people know who you are?
Well, first off, thank you so much for the roof coming off and all that. It was honestly, it was a pleasure to cast that game. Honestly, like for those who don't know me, I'm a World of Warships Twitch streamer. I am currently with Double Strike 007, the subclan of the one of the subclans of the O7 community. I cast KOTS. I haven't been able to in the last tournament or so just because of schoolwork. But what I try to do when I cast, I try to bring the excitement of tactical shooters like Valorant or CS:GO. If you've ever watched tournaments like that, or even like League of Legends, like the NALCS, I try to bring that excitement with the casters to World of Warships to liven it up a little bit, keep people on the edge of their seats, and just bring my inherent knowledge to the game while adding that spark to basically an otherwise, for lack of better phrasing, the thinking man's action game.
Absolutely. The best part about that thinking man, I don't know if anybody, I think I've mentioned this once before on the podcast, that I think the thinking man's action game trope came from a clip that is out there. I don't know whether it's a commercial or like an internet ad or something, but there's this guy saying, the thinking man's action game. And what's happening on the screen when he says the thinking man's action game is that you're actually following a carrier torpedo strike group as it drops on a battleship. But if you look carefully, it actually drops. It's dropping too late. So the carrier's planes the torpedoes are going to bonk without arming. And so he literally is saying the thinking man's action game when the carrier player is clearly not thinking. It's wonderful. It's just glorious.
Delicious irony.
Yeah. So
Delicious irony.
Twitch streamer, KOTS streamer.
I'm getting started into YouTube as well. Like I've been slacking a little bit just because at the moment, just because school has been stressful. I've got a couple end of the year papers coming up. I actually get to write about video games, which is kind of awesome. But I do YouTube content. I'm planning to do more ship reviews, replay reviews, and just kind of talking about some things. Like I know, before I got bogged down, I was originally gonna make a big video about the whole Flamu incident with Ouija, but that's kind of stale now. So I gotta find something. I gotta find something that'll find people's attention, I guess, and just talk about something that's a hot button. Because that's kind of what the YouTube algorithm is nowadays.
So thinking back on some of the stuff that you've done with Warships, particularly like Boggzy mentioned, I remember you casting some KOTS stuff that I've watched and played in. With anything that's happened on your stream, is there 2 or 3 moments maybe that stand out to you as being really fun or really impressive or exciting in your casting or in things that you've broadcast on Twitch?
Well, there's been times where, in KOTS specifically, it's the impossible shots that are made. Like, for example, I know, Borla, I casted you making one in KOTS 10, I think. I don't I know I was screaming your names for some reason.
Was that the rear turret shot?
It was the rear turret shot, and you clapped somebody. It was
Venezia.
absolutely...
I took out a Venezia. My guns were off to the left side, and my rear turret was coming around. And he disappeared right as I shot, and you screamed out something about Borla with the rear turret. That made a lot of noise on our Discord, and a lot of people sent me that clip, and that was a fun time.
It was moments like that where the impossible low percentage shots are being made, or the huge brain plays, things like that, and just casting KOTS, or even just playing ships. I remember, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, I was playing Silver Ranked, and I baited this Petro with I think it actually was a TNG player in his Shima, and the Petro didn't want to take the ram, and so he's reversing around this island, and then all of a sudden surprise Shimakaze because I was charging him in my Des Moines, and I'm just screaming, he's getting baited. Moments like that, the fun things where you just have those huge galaxy brain plays. It's just, I don't know, those moments for me are the most fun, because everyone gets a laugh. Everyone gets to like that, oh my God, he really just did that. Or, oh my God, they really just did that moment. And
Yeah.
to me, those are what stand out for broadcasting, streaming, content, et cetera, et cetera. Those exciting moments because, I mean, ships, let's be real here, it can be a sleepy game at times. And we need that little bit of a kickstart just to get it going.
Well, and I know you bring a lot of energy to it. And one of the advantages to ships, you talked about some of the other games, CSGO and things like that. With ships, you can see it coming. So you can kind of, with someone who is an experienced caster, both you guys have casted KOTS and Senpai, you've casted a lot of stuff. You can see it play out if you've played a little bit competitive, and you kind of anticipate what's going to happen and be ready for it, which I think is fun to watch.
Like, I would be lying if I said I didn't actually, like, if I saw something coming and I waited like a few moments to announce it, because then people are like, oh my God, it's a surprise. But really, I see it coming. Like, I guess to someone who just wants to watch ships, to the for example, the untrained eye, they're like, oh my God, that's happening. But again, as you said, having a competitive edge, I did play KOTS with Double O, SL with Cute and Cuter back in the day, can't I? I go a while back actually competitively, just for thinking about it.
I'm curious, do you ever miss actually playing KOTS instead of casting it?
I do miss it sometimes, but I do feel like competitive wise, since I've just haven't been able to compete in like clan wars recently, just because I'm moving on with my life, and like I'm finishing a degree, and I just don't have time for it anymore. Like, I have other things that I'm actually competing in games wise, or I did. We'll get into that later, but like I really do miss playing. And this last clan wars season, I know it's a little late, but I'm actually thinking of dusting off the mantle and heading right back into this tier 9 season.
Oh yeah, you're thinking about actually coming back to it's a time commitment, man. Like but I understand. It's so strange because I've been streaming a lot, more in the last couple months than I was before, and then when Clan Wars comes up, it's just such a huge time chunk, and then even if you find a way to manage to like layer the two together, then suddenly you're like, oh my God, I'm playing Warships like 8 hours a day if I try to do both, and that's a lot of time, I mean, especially if you're getting a degree, which we can get into later. How do you find time to do all that sort of thing? And a lot of the times the answer is you can't.
It's very true. Like, it's a lot of time management, and like with that time management, I'm very, very fortunate that during this pandemic, I've made content creation my main job, just because what I was doing before the pandemic, I'm currently, I guess, not allowed to do, because it's like a public sector sort of thing, and I'm out there and I'm around a lot of I guess vulnerable people such as children, elderly. But I'm like, once that happened, it freed up a lot of my time, and just time management. Like, I can actually kind of like commit, for lack of better phrasing, 8 hours to ships a day just because of that.
Sure, yeah. That's interesting. Were you a bartender as well, like I was?
No. I was actually like
children.
Yeah, old people and babies. That's all I ever served.
I mean, technically speaking, it's not wrong to give a child whiskey if they're teething, right?
I mean, that's how it used to be. God bless, right? Well, okay, so we can, you answered the question, like, kind of what you've been up to lately, and it sounds like you've been able to make good use of some time during the pandemic, at least. I just want to move on to something that I've always wanted to know about, because I was inducted. I was indoctrinated into the CC program in, I think, October or November, maybe. I don't remember what it was. But you've been around for quite a while in that. And you were at the last CC Summit, right?
Correct.
So I hear, like, tales of the CC Summit. And I hear little things, and people mention things there. But it just sounds like such a fun thing. So could you do me a favor and just tell me a little bit about what the last CC Summit was like, sort of what they, what was the plan there, what did they do, and if there's anyone from Wargaming who's especially fun to party with?
Let's see. So the summit was honestly one of the greatest things I've ever done with Wargaming, just because, like, I hadn't traveled outside of the continental, like, I guess, continent of North America in like years. Like, aside from like a few times, I guess, going to Mexico, but that still kind of counts. But being able to travel to Europe and Russia for the first time in like over 10 years, that was amazing fun. The company was amazing. Like I was my flight got delayed heading out of Vancouver to Frankfurt, and instead of like me kind of having to fend for myself, like the whole travel department was just like, hey, here, we booked you a flight already, you're good to go, you don't need to worry about rushing through security, just wait and you'll get on this flight. Like the whole experience, like just traveling there was one part, but the whole experience of actually being there was an entirely, it was fun, but it was also like huge culture shock. Like, I don't know if you've ever been to Russia, but holy moly.
Well, please tell us about it.
So first off, it's so different there. Like it feels like it's very every person for themselves almost. You step off the plane and it's like you gotta go, like go. Like you're rushing around people.
You're rushing around.
yes, no pun intended, but like just being there, like just like what, well, I can get into like where we stayed, like what we did, but like just being at the summit, it was very, very informative. And of course, a lot of the stuff that we talked about there was under NDA at the time, and I do believe it's pretty well all been released now. This is where we found out about the Naval Training Bureau, and that raised a lot of eyebrows and a lot of voices in the room. It was a very fun time. We got to learn about like different, like how like they develop things. We got a tour of the St. Petersburg headquarters.
Oh, that's cool.
And I'm just gonna say this now. God bless the art department.
God bless the art department.
I think on the last episode, I said they're the rock stars that we all recognize that save things and keep bringing us back.
Mm-hmm. Like they had this whole thing. There's like one of everything that they've released, like merch wise, or like, and there's just some of the things that like we haven't actually seen before, like shirts, stuff like that, like posters, tapestries, and like it was really, really cool. But getting down to talking to the devs and stuff like that, it was a big eye-opening thing, and we could see, like, to me, it gave me an idea of what we could look at, or like what their mindset is, and like how they go through things. And we also personally, I got to see the like where the personal disconnects happen between cultures, like EU culture, Russian culture, North American culture, and Asian culture,
right, in
talking about ships. And it was like a it was interesting to say the least. Like the idea is like, okay, well, what, like the NA idea was like, why don't we balance this around this? And then we kind of got the well, we've done testing and this says this personality, which essentially equates to spreadsheet says this.
Sure.
And that's where it's like, okay, well, we see the data, but what about the feel? And that's where the disconnect happens.
Okay, so that's really, really interesting. And I'm sorry, Borla, I don't mean to steamroll the conversation here, but you said something specific there that I want to address, because, I mean, I've heard a couple times, and I don't think this is under NDA whatsoever, but there's been conversations on the CC Discord that I now get to be a part of where we oftentimes are told, hey, we'd like your feedback to be objective. And I always scratch my head at that, because I feel like without the spreadsheet, so to say, we don't have the ability to collect data the same way that the game company does. Therefore, our opinions will never be as objective as what Wargaming can already see. So I always sort of think, well then, okay, what in the hell are we doing? Why would they waste their time asking us for our opinions on stuff if we can't give them objective opinions? And I sort of thought, our job is to relay as objectively as possible the subjective opinions of, the average player, where it's like, yeah, this might objectively be balanced. It's not fun. That's a subjective opinion, sure, but we're supposed to be the ones that sort of, I suppose, translate that thing that you can't get from a spreadsheet, which is, this is going to piss people off. Like, I mean, and here's the example, Deadeye. No one, I don't think, expected Deadeye to create a meta where battleships sit in the back. I don't think anyone saw that coming. And it's not something you can really look at on a spreadsheet and go, aha, yes, this is causing this type of gameplay because of this. It's just, no, every time I get into a game, I can expect the BBs to sit in the back now because they're too afraid to get close because they'll lose their precious deadeye. I mean, do you ever get that feeling where it's like, I guess there's no way we can do objective responses, so all we're able to do is sort of filter the subjective response? Or am I crazy?
No, you're definitely not crazy, because honestly, I do feel like there are times that they listen to us, but honestly, I don't think it really gets past them, because it has to go to it has to go through a bunch of different chains, and I just feel like instead of saying, oh, your feedback is duly noted, they'll tell us oh, you're outright wrong because it's not objectively speaking. And I do feel like sometimes we're kind of glossed over, and I feel like sometimes as CCs, though it is great to be a CC, and I just want to say for the record, God bless the NA office because they're amazing. It just feels like sometimes we're just here to promote, I guess for lack of better phrasing, sit down, shut up, play the game.
Yeah,
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I think before we move on, one thing you touched on, I really feel strongly or agree with, is the difference in culture between the different servers and the different areas of the world is a big part of why I think a lot of North American players in particular feel frustrated and disenfranchised, because if you look at what goes on in business in North America and Canada and the United States largely, if the customer complains or wants something, or we even see today, you put it on social media, what happens? People, they respond, right?
The mob picks up
they roll over.
Yeah, and we're used to that. That's what we see. So when we do that, we expect a response and we expect it to conform to what we asked for. And oftentimes, and I do think it's a cultural difference in both Europe and especially in Russia, that's not the way things work. And sometimes it's a decision is made based on what those who have the authority feel is best, and you just have to live with it. And you have to, there's very little, you can sand off some of the edges through your complaints or your feedback, but if the decision is made a certain way, I think the customer feedback that people in North America expect is not the same as what the decision makers in Russia and secondarily in Europe really will go by. They're looking at the data or what their goal was in the first place. And I don't think you can objectively say this one is wrong and that one is right, but they are extremely different.
Again, we can't say this is wrong and right, because we've all been brought up differently, but I think it's just there's the disconnect, and there's not the willingness to I guess entertain the ideas. I think that's what I'm going for. Because if the ideas were at least entertained, then maybe there would have been a little bit of headway, been hey, we're looking into this, etc., etc. But instead it's well, this says this, and we think that what you're experiencing is, for lack of better phrasing, an anomaly, I guess.
Yeah, I do think one thing, and I think it could have been communicated better, and it would have really gotten some positive feedback. If you look at what's happened the last several seasons of clan battles, they have changed things up, both by adjusting tier, having some with CVs, some without CVs. This season we see no CVs, and there's some limits and bans of ships. I think if 3 or 4 or 5 seasons ago, Wargaming had said, hey, we've listened to you guys, you want a little change in the meta, you don't want to be stale tier 10s. Hey, we listened to you guys, some of you guys don't want CVs, so we're going to have a rotation, and every 6 seasons, maybe 3 or 4 of them are tier 10 and one of them doesn't have CVs, the others do. And then we'll do, if they laid that whole path of what they've done the last 3 or 4 seasons out ahead of time, I think they would have gotten a lot of commendation from North America and probably the other servers.
It's just kind of instead of the, hey, we're just springing this now, you're completely right. If they had laid it out, it would have been a lot, I guess, maybe a lot easier blow for some people, and just easier to digest. Because if we humans don't like uncertainty. We hate it. We absolutely hate it. And this kind of goes towards that whole train of thinking. If we had that certainty, again, it would be a lot easier. I agree with that. I totally 100%.
There's a little fun thing in Hollywood called "Give Me the Same Thing but Different," which I think is I think that's got to be one of, like, in terms of marketing, or if you have one of these games now. I don't even know what they call games that are constantly in open beta, just so that they can avoid certain rules, where it's like, this game is constantly evolving and changing, but we'll never get an official release. I sort of feel like it gets this notion of, as they see things succeed, they just continue to do that in slight variations because it's the same but different. So I think that it's just a general rule of thumb that they're very hesitant to avoid major changes, which is why they do little tests. And maybe this is a good way to segue to state of the game. For example, right now we have Ranked. Ranked is going through another iteration of, I suppose, trying to implement some of the feedback that people have given. People have said one week per sprint was too short. It creates too much pressure to try and rank out each time because it's just too goddamn difficult. And then you've got, now it's 2 weeks because they clearly listened to some feedback. I'm like, all right, well, we'll try every 2 weeks. We have a clan battle season where, hey, they actually seem to have done the things we asked, which was put limits on ships that are clearly OP or ban them outright. No CVs, It's interesting to see that. So, and now they're doing Big Hunt. And I'm kind of curious to know, like, if you have any opinions on how the state of the game is right now, seeing as I feel like there's a lot going on. There's, a new iteration of Ranked. There's Big Hunt. There's clan battles, and we're coming right up on KOTS again.
Well, like, to me, Ranked, it's very interesting in the fact that they're going to the different leagues, which I think is a step in the right direction. And I've always been an advocate of having separation in MMR, where people just can't fail their way up. Unfortunately, there's one huge caveat of this, and I've seen it in Gold League personally. People still fail their way to the top.
Oh, yeah.
And to me, like, there's a few players out there, I'm sure we could all think of a few. There's a certain irate amphibian that we don't that people don't like to talk about, or don't like to see on their teams. But I do think, like, the iterations of some of these, like Ranked. Don't get me wrong, I love Ranked. It's content. It's hilarious. It's a love-hate relationship. Hate that I get bad teams, but, like, I love how they've gone with the leagues. But what I want to see is a personal MMR. Like, for example, if you do way better than a teammate on a win, you gain more, I guess, ranking points. And if you're, like, basically first in and die and expect to be carried, you gain less. That's something I personally like to see, but I think Ranked is in a much better place than it was because it does have that prevention with the promotions. With Big Hunt, I feel like it's stale. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like stuff like this is stale. Like, we've had so many different, like, different modes of game like this. Like, for example, like, just how, like, it basically, like,
the Halloween from
Halloween from a while back, and this just feels like a copy paste. It feels like laziness, and I get there's a lot of stuff going on, like new lines being released or like new lines being developed, but having this copy pasted, like, if people liked this, then by all means I'll eat my words. But to me, who's as someone who just kind of like looks at it, and like I personally like playing randoms and Ranked more, it just feels kind of lazy to me. I don't like it. It, like, bring us more, like, historic stuff. Like, everybody remembers the Dunkirk scenario, right?
Oh yeah,
that was
hilarious fun. It was awesome fun. It was historic. It was related to like the movie Dunkirk. And honestly, I was kind of low key expecting something to happen with the Midway film that was released last year.
Oh yeah,
but like nothing happened, and that made me really sad because, like, we want to, like, I guess we want to see, like, more things I personally want to see more things like that Dunkirk event. To me, like, the Big Hunt to me is just eh.
The thing about Big Hunt to me now is that there is at least a carrot at the end of the stick that makes us all want to play it, which is there are 3 permanent camos available, for those who've grinded, I guess, I don't know. For those who played it enough to have enough resources to get these camos, I mean, permanent camos are fun. I like them. The art department does a good job, and it's something that's there that you can sort of take away like a little trophy from it. I still think the best one they've done was Savage Battles. Savage Battles to me was lots and lots and lots of fun. And the reward at the end of that was the Benham, was a tier 9 premium that, I mean, we even used it for the first, I'd say, week and a half of clan battles this season because it just makes torpedo soup. Like, it's got something unique about it, and it's fun. And that was, hey, I will spend 2 hours a day grinding Savage Battles to get a tier 9 premium.
Oh, fun fact. At the CC Summit, while we were at dinner, Lord Zath took out his laptop and played Savage Battles with Captain Arya from the EU server. So basically, you can see this. You can see this on Sea Raptor's YouTube. I think Zath was steering and Arya was shooting.
That's
and it
hysterical.
Was the funniest thing I had ever seen. And like, Flamu's to my left, and Lord Zath is to my right, and Flamu's, of course, like he's filming this. And I look to my right, and I look back at him. I'm just like, are we really seeing this? And he's like, yep.
That's crazy. What a fun thing, though, to, hey, you got two content creator guys sitting there literally tag teaming one battle.
It was the funniest thing. Oh, and for the record, best wargaming employee to party with, in my opinion, Sir Nelson, one of the
really?
developer leads. Huge fun to party with. I would say Earl Grey as well, but he doesn't work there anymore, so we'll leave that at that.
I did hear some stories.
People.
I did hear some stories about Earl Grey. Yes.
The one thing too, before we move on, about some of these special modes, and you brought up the Benham. I feel like if once or twice a year we had these events and we actually felt we were getting away with something as far as the rewards went, that would go a long way towards making players happy. It feels like even with these permanent camos on this one, the amount of time and effort that's put into it is massive for what you get. And if even once or twice a year, I remember back in the old days, it used to feel like ranked. You got a huge amount of rewards. There was other game modes that we've had where you got a lot of rewards or felt like you did. And just to have, one every 6 months, whether it's one at Christmas time and one at the anniversary time in the summer or something like that, I don't think it would. I think it would be a lot of positive publicity with the players who have been around a long time. Just like, Christmas grades turned into a fiasco this past year, but that used to be the time where everybody was happy, right? Like, hey, I'm going to spend $100 this year and I'm going to get a bunch of stuff. This is the one time through the year I get away with something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if they did that with some of these things, we'd be able to put up with some of the other stuff a little easier.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking back to, now that you mentioned that, like thinking back to the Savage Battles, it wasn't even just the Benham that was available. You could get 7 or 8 different permanent camos for tier 10 destroyers.
Yep.
That's a big deal. Those are 5,000 to 6,000 doubloons each. That's a lot of rewards that you can earn from playing the mode. And the mode was fun. It was fun. I see what they're trying to do by blending a little PvE with a little PvP in the Big Hunt. I just don't know that it's... I don't know. I just don't know that it's quite as...
It's the type of game to do so.
Yeah, it's just an odd... It doesn't feel compelling to me because it's not one or the other. I don't feel like I'm competing against them to kill all the monsters. It's not like a Safari where I'm hunting Cthulhu monsters against other people. I feel like I'm sort of just... How can I min-max the amount of points I get before I get out? And how quickly can I do that over the multiple number of games? And I don't know. There's no real competitive aspect to that to me. And the rewards aren't all that really interesting. So, I don't know. It's just a little underwhelming. And I felt that way about the first version of it, which was, I think was just called Polygon, or is that just the map or the port? What the hell am I thinking of? What was the first iteration of Big Hunt?
I do not remember, but the map was called Polygon.
Was it just called Big Hunt version 1 or?
No, sorry, not the map. The port was called Polygon. I think it was just called. It might have just been called Big Hunt. I don't know. I can't remember.
I can't remember either. Obviously, we all remember Savage Battles, and we don't remember the first iteration of this that happened more recently because it just wasn't. I don't know. It was a bummer.
But I just think that even with Savage Battles, I just don't think World of Warships was the type of game to go with a battle royale sort of deal. I mean, BRs were popular at the time, still are very popular because We still have Warzone with Call of Duty, and Fortnite is still hanging on. But like, I just don't think World of Warships is the type of game to bring into the battle royale spectrum, because the whole point of that is being able to react very quickly and customize your loadout, and therefore gain an advantage over an opponent.
Right.
And with the ship types that were brought into Savage Battles and this sort of thing, it's kind of like you're almost railroaded into like a framework. Whereas like you could, like for example in PUBG, you can play an entire game and win with a crossbow, whereas you're still forced to have like some form of main armament. You can't just be like, okay, well, I'm just gonna do this. I mean, I guess they sort of did that with like torpedo only boats, but like to me that just doesn't sit well.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a true BR.
Yeah, that's fair.
So going back to kind of the main portion of the game with the captain's rework that we had a couple patches ago, we talked a little bit about Deadeye. You have any opinions on how that could be made better, or what adjustments you think should be made with the captain's skills now that we've had a couple months to mess with them?
Some of the captain skills I agree with, which here, let me just bring up a couple. Like the heavy HE, I mean, I think that's amazing fun. I don't know if any of you have gotten the Austin, but even though I'm absolutely terrible in it right now and it's an absolute PR sync, I think it really affects boats really well like that. But at the same time, it also really promotes HE spam, which is also another problem in the game. But going back to the big problem of Deadeye, I actually made a video on this. I just 2 words: remove it. It's created a extremely passive meta where teams now are even more scared to leave the spawn. There's actually a clip of me and my Shikishima going off the handle about having battleships further back than the carrier in the game I was playing. Meanwhile, I'm in my Shikishima trying to tank, and I'm screaming at these battleships that are on the 1 line, and I'm screaming at these other battleships and like heavy cruisers that are sitting over behind on the 10 line on north, and we all know that's all blocked off by islands. And I'm going red in the face here. Like, Deadeye is like, while you get some really, really nasty salvos, it's like throwing a nuclear football in the slav at a broadside cruiser.
Yes.
But like it's just not healthy for the game. Like, you get people like, oh, I want my extra 10% dispersion. I'm just gonna sit and do lack of better phrasing, sweet all. Like,
did you just bleep yourself?
Yep.
Oh
yep, I've got that ability. Because I want to keep this PG, you know?
And the
bless.
thing that I
But,
think a
like,
lot of people don't get with Deadeye or don't realize is they're sitting like if you're using Deadeye and you're barely outside of your normal spotting range, so that you're, just barely have it procced, then yeah, you're getting a good advantage. But these people who are sitting an extra 5, 6, 7K back, even with the better dispersion, they're still getting worse results than they would without it being further up.
It's precisely like, I'm like, more times than not, I've entered a battle, and instead of watching a battleship press the W key, I just see them slam the S key and reverse into the back line. And that's something that I absolutely despise. Like, I see my tanks running away from me while I'm running forward in a cruiser. Like, hey guys, like, in order to do damage, I need to, 1, be able to get into a good position, and 2, need someone to kind of take the fire away from me, and so I can do things. But one thing that I'm really, really upset about with Deadeye is that it's turned Thunderer into this beast of a ship. Like, absolute, like, we're talking like this ship that was already game breaking, even more game breaking than normal, because like, we take something like the Thunderer, which has 457s, great HE, great AP, and a concealment of, wait for it, 12.3, which is insane concealment on a battleship, and a maximum armament range of 24.3 with the reload module. Like, just think about that. You have 12 kilometers of Deadeye room.
Yep.
And like, you could literally have a Thunderer walk up right into your mouth and be like, hey, I'm gonna double click you out of existence because you didn't know I existed.
And not only that, but the big thing is, you mentioned it already, the HE has exceptional damage and extraordinary fire chances, which means and it has a really, really good reload because it's supposed to be not tanky. But the thing is, 20 kilometers plus, it's really difficult to sync your shots properly, especially if they're angled with Battleship AP, whereas the Thunder can just sling HE all day long and laugh as it's getting 10k volleys on you plus fires over and over and over again. That's the frustration.
And one more thing to add to it, it has an 8.3 second rudder shift, which is only seen on cruisers. Like if we go to something that's like that's supposed to be equally as maneuverable, like the Repub, with the rudder module, it is. Give me a moment. It is 14.6. That is almost double. That is very, very short of double.
Yeah. So
now, Boggzy, wasn't Mr. Conway when he was on and he talked about Deadeye, and I think he was joking, suggested that having a skill like that while they're contesting a cap and have their dispersion, obviously that's not realistic, but what would you, Senpai, say for a battleship skill for 4 points that would be reasonable? Because it sounds like they're going to completely build Deadeye from the ground up or replace it with a different skill. So what would you like to see that would fix these problems?
I would like to see Deadeye reduced dispersion of main battery shells. Like 10% is a lot, and it may not seem like a lot on paper, but you have that plus let's take the Yamato for example. We have Deadeye plus the dispersion module plus the unique upgrade. That is, that's 10 plus 7 plus, give me a moment here, plus another 7. That's 24% subtracted from your maximum main battery dispersion. And I'm pretty sure there's diminishing returns on that. I'm not 100% on that. But to me, I think reducing Deadeye's bonus would be a huge start, and adding a drawback. Not one that's like, oh, I can't take concealment, or oh, I can't take fire prevention, but add a significant drawback to actually getting this additional accuracy. Like, for example, it slows down your reload to like by X% just because you get this accuracy, because it's like, oh, we need to align the shell in the barrel or something. Oh my goodness. But I want to see it either completely removed or, for lack of a better phrasing, chop its balls off, because right now it's just too good. It's too much.
Yeah.
Far too much.
That's interesting. Those are interesting suggestions. I mean, I had always personally been of the idea as well of just give it a reload, penalty, I guess. You want to be more accurate? Great. You'll shoot less often. Because that also doesn't have any sort of peripheral effect on the meta, I don't think. So if you, for example, the biggest problem to me about the Deadeye nerf is not that the Deadeye buff is not that it increases the accuracy. It's that's great for ships like Kansas or GK or something. You can actually play the GK now as not a secondary. I mean, I just do it secondaries for the fun, but if you build a tank accuracy range mod GK, you can be shooting 12 guns at 24 kilometers with pretty decent accuracy. You're basically a tankier Montana with better ballistics and worse gun firing angles. And it's insane how good the GK becomes if you play it that way. And that's all because Deadeye is now an option. But at the same time, the drawback, which is, hey, it doesn't work if you get too close. It creates a behavior in people that they stay further away. So I would love to see it just do something even just the reload goes up. You don't get to shoot as often, therefore your DPM goes down. Accuracy goes up, DPM goes down. It's just a trade-off, and that's a feeling that people get. If you think you're a really good shot, you don't need the extra DPM, take Deadeye. If you're like, well, I'm not that good of a shot, it's probably in my best interest to be firing as often as possible, and accuracy be damned, there you go. Good luck. So I do want something available for those ships that suffer from bafflingly poor accuracy, like Kansas and Minnesota even. What are the other? Oh, God, any of the Italian battleships.
Oh, God, Marco Polo is heinous. I cannot believe it was released. I cannot.
But, those benefit from Deadeye. Granted, they have a small window where Deadeye is active, because most have a 13 to 14 kilometer, concealment, and then an 18 to 19 maximum range. So that's a pretty small deadeye window, but man, it makes a huge difference for a ship with bad sigma or bad dispersion.
Your Marco Polo comment made me glad that we have to really dig your feelings out of you and don't really understand what your opinions are until we ask lots of secondary questions.
It like honestly, just Marco Polo is just like I can see the allure, but like honestly, when I've played it, it just feels like a tier 6 German battleship pre-Deadeye to me.
That
It just
yeah.
it's gross. Like another thought on Deadeye though, how would this sound? Removing X percentage of damage from your shells in order to get accuracy. So you know how there was the heavy
that's
AP,
interesting.
but having Deadeye, reducing the damage you actually deal
-5 or 8% or something.
yeah, like 5, 7, 8% would be like huge for that because like you'd be able to trade that off. And like for example, like instead of like the huge Citadel damage that the Shikishima has, like I play Godzilla Shiki with the heavy AP,
Oh my
20k,
god.
and you take that and you subtract like 10% from that. Like to me, like okay, like I'm doing less damage. That's worth the trade-off for accuracy. If I can hit a target more, that's great. Like, and if given I won't hit as hard, but it might even be like it might be a plausible thing, but it would have to be a significant amount of damage taken off.
Something like that, yeah. I mean, a downside to skill is not always, it's not always a death knell. It's not always a deal breaker, but it needs to do something that doesn't adversely affect the rest of the meta. And I think Borla and I have probably beaten this horse to death over but
yeah, I'd like to talk to him a little bit about this next KOTS. We've had some of the information released. We did talk to Conway a couple episodes about it, and they released all of the information on the survey that they did. They promised to keep CVs out for the near future and to pay attention to what the audience and the players feel as far as those go. So I guess, what do you think about this upcoming KOTS that we're going to have in a few weeks? And do you see any significant changes? I know on the global scale now, the way the bans are going to work, and they announced the way the ship bans are going to work for each round. So there's some new information out. I think it was this morning on all of that.
I didn't have time to read the new info, but I am relieved to hear that there are not going to be carriers because simply speaking, like I get that like people can whine all day about the damage or like how tanky the planes are, but to me, like it's the spotting issue, and it basically removes an entire class from the game, Destroyer. It's like why would you need DDs if you can just have a plane that can spot right outside of like a carrier's a ship's AA range and just keep them perma spotted so like they can't do anything, and two, you just have so much damage feeding into that one target. Like I'm very, very happy that even with Wargames' acquisition of King of the Sea, just to see no carriers, just because at least they acknowledge that there are issues with the class and the competitive scene as a major whole, like as the vast majority of them do not want to see them in this type of game. Like keep them to randoms, keep them to ranked, and keep them as far away from CBs as possible.
Yeah, I think the survey results didn't surprise anyone. Just so you know, the format stuff that was announced this morning, as expected, it's 9v9 tier 10, no CVs. The major change was the ship banning system, which North America had used, EU and Russia and others had not. So basically what's going to happen is each team will get one ship to ban in that particular series, and those bans will apply to both teams for all the maps. And then what they're also going to do is they're going to ask all the teams, every team, to cast a vote for one ship to be globally banned from the tournament from the very beginning. And so, and they pointed out that if you ban, for instance, Yamato, that doesn't include Shiki or any boat that gets banned. If there's another boat on the same hull, that doesn't include both of them. It's just the one that was specifically mentioned. So the potential is something like the Petro or the Kleber could be banned from everything everywhere if that's the boat that gets the most votes. And then in each round, each team will get one ship to ban as well.
I don't know about the global ban. Like to me, that just doesn't sit very well. Like I like to me like I come from watching things like the NALCS, like the league championship series, where bans happen on the fly, where teams like two rosters of 5v5, they get to ban they get to ban two champions each after like they've picked certain ships. Like so for example, like I'm playing Valorant and I'm like, okay, I want to ban an operator. I'm gonna go ahead and ban Jet because she's an insane duelist hyper carry, and I want to see that in ships where it's like on the fly, like in the round, like people are ready, like have their ship set up and have their backup set up just in case. And it's like they're in the thing, and it's like, okay, well, we're banning this right away, and then it's back and forth, back and forth. I want to see them take on the NA, I guess, rule set for bans, because to me it provided something that was more on the fly and people had to be ready for it instead of just having it sit there and be like, okay, well, now we've got to plan around this.
Yeah, the only thing that I would say is in the early rounds that would make a nightmare for time. You could do it in the later rounds with the teams that are more experienced or whatever. I think in the early rounds, the timing. But yeah, so I guess Boggzy, you want to move on to sink a ship?
I'd love to. I'm thrilled. This has been an absolute pleasure to have you, Senpai. And as with all things must get sunk. We've been doing this for quite a few episodes. This is episode 74 now, I think, which is kind of incredible to think about. This started last April. I think April 20th was the first episode release. I'll have to double check that. But every episode, we have our guests sink a ship. Now, the way this basically works is you get onto this little digital motorcycle, a la Tron, and you race down this long, bizarre track made of light until you get to whatever source there is, and then you stick your hand into the source. You're granted the power by Tron Jesus to destroy any ship in this game. So what I'd like you to do is put on your goofy light helmet and sink a ship.
All right, so I've been thinking about this one. And to me, there are two very obvious choices. And I can't for the life of me decide between the two. Like, both of them are extremely broken.
Okay.
And have no place in the game. But if I had to choose, you know what? Now that I'm more think about it, if I had to choose a ship that we had to Thanos snap out of existence, it would be the Kleber. Just because French DDs are, for lack of better phrasing, like they've been meta picks for so long. They have insane damage potential. They have insane saturation. You just can't deal damage to them while they just run around and say, haha, main battery, reload, booster, go burr. And we saw that spam we saw French DD spam in many different Clan Wars seasons. And this season before the limitations came out, we saw tons of Mogador. And to me, I think the Kleber needs to go, just because it is, 1, too fast, 2, it doesn't take damage, 3, it has too much firepower.
I have a prediction, and that is that just when you said that, when you sank the Kleber, a tiny animated tear fell out of Gaishu's eye wherever he was, and he has no idea why.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
he's like sitting in an airport somewhere, and this little tiny anime tear just popped out, and he goes, "What in the hell is that?"
I feel a strong disturbance in the force.
I feel a strong disturbance in the force. That's right. Well,
I think that's a good pick.
That's a good
got with the research department, Boggzy.
Uh-huh.
The first episode was March 24th.
Are you kidding me?
I think when you were saying April 24th or April 28th, you were thinking of the very noteworthy episode that I was on for the first time on April 28th.
Oh, man.
That's what research tells me.
Wait, so tomorrow is the 1-year anniversary of this podcast?
Yes,
no way.
Holy
That's
crap,
insane.
Dude. That is kind of insane.
Time flies.
What the hell have I been doing for the last year? I don't even know.
And the first one, and I think
any of us.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to do this today, Boggzy. The first one was 20 minutes long.
Oh my God. How think of all the time I could have saved people who have to listen to me talk. Wow. Well, Senpai, is there anything else that we can help plug for you? Is there anything you're working on? Anything obviously we're going to include links to your Twitch stream, your YouTube, anything else you'd like? Is there anything else you'd like to mention to our audience?
Right now, I am currently revamping and resurrecting my masterclass series for World of Warships for people who want to learn how to
Oh,
play certain lines and get up to like their fabled tier 10 of that line. So we just did the Des Moines last week on stream. We do this every 2 weeks, and it is community voted. It's in my Discord. I can give you a Discord link after
please.
we're done here, but what we do is I put up a straw poll for like 3 days, 4 days that say, hey, pick a class. And then we pick class, and then when it's like, okay, well, here are the nations that we can do. Choose one. We're gonna go tier 6 to 10. I'm gonna play till I get a win in each ship, and I'm gonna talk about how to play it, how to spec it, and how you can do well, strengths and weaknesses, things like that. And so that's something I'm looking at. I've been resurrecting, like we just did the Des Moines last week, and the Des Moines is hands down my favorite ship. It's the ship I've gotten the most kills consecutively in, and it's the ship that I actually got Twitch partner in. Like, I played this game, I got 8 kills, and they sent me the check mark.
What?
All back to back to
Wow.
back.
Do you think it was because of that?
It quite possibly could have been. And it was surreal. Like, not gonna lie. But I am doing that. I am looking at doing more YouTube content. I do have a replay channel in my Discord where people can send me the replays and I can make a commentary over them. Much likely in the stylings of Notzer, where we just get right into it. It's like, hey, like, what's up? Like, I give you a little bit of news, and then we just get right into the gameplay. I'm going to be doing that as well. Lots of contests. Oh, coming up for April, Discord damage contest. We still have yet to go over the parameters of what tiers and what classes are going to be restricted to this contest, but whoever gets the most damage within the rules wins some prizes. We have a ton of codes on the line, like CC containers. I'm just finishing up my review on the Leone, so hopefully I get to give one of those away.
Very cool.
But yeah, like, that's really what y'all should be looking out for. Lots of contests, lots of like community interaction. Like, I want people to decide, like, hey, what do you want to see? Like, tell me what you want to see in content, and we'll go from there.
Oftentimes, listening to the audience to hear what they want to see more of is the best way to know, the right direction to go. When being creative, when the page is blank, sometimes can be the most daunting, difficult thing in the entire world. Yeah. So, I mean, by all means, please, everybody listening who does or does not know Senpai, go and tell him what he needs to be doing, and go tell him what you want to see, because he's lots of fun to watch. It's how I got introduced to KOTS, and it was the right way to do it. So, yeah, man, we're going to include links to everything that you've described. That'll be down below in the description, whether you're watching it on YouTube or listening to it on Anchor. There is a section of text with all these links. So please go check him out. And, I'm really glad we finally got you, because you're a really good guy. And it's important to me to, let folks know who the folks out there are who try to remain positive and optimistic. Everyone's frustrated and pissed off about things here and there, but it's like, yeah, but this is supposed to be fun, so let's make it fun. And you've always struck me as a guy who wants things to be fun, and for people to have a good time. So it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
It's been an absolute honor being on the podcast with you and Borla. It's been like, just like every time I see him, like, oh, I want to be on this, I want to be on this, I want to be on this. And like, finally the opportunity arises, and it's been wonderful. I mean, I've been on podcasts before. Like, I've been on back when Kalorn was doing the Warships podcast. Venom did Across Your Bow as well. And it's just so much fun being finally able to come on your podcast, Boggzy. So thank you so much for the invite.
My pleasure.
Yeah, appreciate having you. It was a really nice conversation. It's good to let people know, like Boggzy said, about the personalities in the game. And it's always good to have positive people in the community. That's absolutely, I think, at the end of the day, if all of us try our best to be like that, we'll be able to keep this game more fun, and it will be able to be fun for longer, and we'll be able to enjoy it for longer. And I think that's kind of what we're all looking for.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see like this game have the legs that World of Tanks has. Like, World of Tanks is still going very, very strong, and I want ships to continue to match that, if not surpass it.
Absolutely. There's only 2 questions I have, and they're real quick ones for you before we move on and end the podcast up. Number 1, What's your degree in?
I'm actually specializing in business communications. So I used to I've been taking a long while to really decide what I wanted to do. Like I could technically finish like a business admin one as well, and then get another like general like arts degree. But like I really just figured, communications is what I wanted to go into, just because. I mean, I'm basically already doing it, like business communications within streaming. Like I'm doing that. I'm managing my own social media. I'm doing my own. I'm putting myself out there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like I could technically say that streaming is my own practicum.
Yeah, you certainly could. Well, the other question, and this is what I'm really getting excited for. I had this idea a little while back. In my clan in TNG, there's a friendly rivalry between the Americans and the Canadians because somehow we've been infested with Canadians. And I don't know how exactly that happened, but it's like 50-50. That's so much considering how many more Americans there are than Canadians in the world. So we had the idea of having like a fun showcase event night one night where we get some of the best Canadians in the game and we get some of the best Americans in the game, or maybe the most fun, or whomever wants to do it, or whatever. And we have like essentially a Masters of the Universe competition where we finally find out who's better, Americans or Canadians. Is that something that sounds at all interesting to you?
Honestly, yeah, but I have to prepare you because MF Jones and Pulleycat are both Canadian.
God
Ducky
help
Shot
us!
is Canadian. We have a very, very large contingent of Canadians in 07007 and QQ7, so I could definitely see if I could pull some strings, see if some of them could be interested. But I honestly think that would be so cool because, I mean, I've always wanted to do a kind of like national all-stars tournament, like in like the KOTS style, like have like Team Canada,
Yes.
Team USA as voted by like people in the community, like even like Team LATAM or like Team Brazil, Team EU, like countries from the EU, like having Team Germany, Team UK, Team Russia.
Right.
I want to see something like that because that to me would be so much fun, and we could finally settle whoever's like, oh, NA lull, EU lull, Asia lull, that sort of thing. We could finally settle that.
Part of me almost wants to, now that you mention it that way, like this might even have to be separate, but part of me almost wants like each server to nominate, like each of the major clans from each server to nominate one player to send to literally an all-star. So you can't have, so the American team isn't all 07, Gaishu, KSE, SCCC, what have you. It's there's a little variety. So like basically an all-star from the top clans, everybody sends a representative and they all fight. That would be delightful to me. But
yeah, 100%. Like it'd just be a great showcase of like talents, like figureheads, and just to show like the best of each region, and hopefully grow the game. Be like, hey, like those of you watching at home, if you try hard enough and you like up your game, you could be as good as these people, and you could be featured here.
That would be super duper fun. So, well, that's a good.
I actually
idea.
like that idea, but Boggzy reminds me of my 4-year-old niece. Like he said, everything was over, and like when you tell her we're gonna leave, it's time to go. She's like, but one more question, one more thing, and
5 more minutes. Yeah. Well, all right. So in that case, I'm gonna have Borla lead us out on this one. All I'm gonna do is hit the stop recording button. So Borla, take it away, will you?
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Please check out all of the links for Senpai, support his stream, and listen to the podcast. Enjoy the day.